Meta Platforms is facing a major legal battle in the United States, with 29 states accusing the company of deliberately designing Facebook and Instagram to be addictive to children in pursuit of profit. The states are seeking potentially tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars in penalties, as well as changes to the way Meta operates its platforms. The four lead states, California, Colorado, Kentucky, as well as New Jersey, allege that Meta designed its platforms to keep young users engaged, contributing to anxiety, depression, and in some instances, suicidal behaviour. They also accuse the company of misleading the consumers about the safety of its platforms. Meta has since rejected these allegations. To take this discussion further, we joined via video link by Paul Hjul, who's a special advisor at Cybersec Clinique. Paul, good to have you on the program this afternoon. Let's start with the legal foundation of this case. What exactly are the 29 states accusing Meta of doing? And what would have to prove for the company to be held liable in these allegations?
So the states that have brought the matter, and there's sort of four lead states through their attorney generals, and then 29 states in total who are party to the action. And initially they brought actions in different federal courts, and they were all consolidated before the single court in Northern California at Oakland. So the matter is before one judge as essentially 29 sets of cases, because each state has its own case, each state has its own plaintiff. And the main thing that the states are relying on, the main sort of statutory basis that they're charging Meta under, is a piece of legislation that is unique to the United States, but other states, including South Africa, have legislation that seeks to achieve the same thing, and that is COPA. And COPA is very specifically designed to protect children. So COPA, and child is the C in COPA. So COPA violations occur when digital platforms allow children to access their platform without parental consent, for example. And for these purposes, child here is under the age of 13. But COPA also creates this sort of general backdrop in which a heightened sort of on platforms. So essentially, one of the things that you'll find is that a lot of platforms will not allow you to open an account if you're under 13, because if they do, they're guilty of COPA violations. And what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to avoid deal with COPA. So COPA is a little bit of a big stick that can easily be misused, and it does sort of tie into a political rhetoric that is dominant in the United States about protecting children, and there's aspects to that. But it is also the case that, particularly when one considers the addictive behavior aspect and so on and so forth, that each of the states has a legitimate case concerning the violations of their state laws, also actions for damages, and there's a whole array of torts, or in the South African context, what we would tend to term delicts, that are at issue. And what Meta really sort of wants is Meta wants to keep all of these matters broken up and put into a whole bunch of little courts throughout the world, spend a lot of money on lawyers to try and fight it off, because they think that they've got a very deep moat. By consolidating all of the actions, this has become a bellwether action. And Meta quite simply are likely to be outgunned in court here, unless the US federal government, and that's a major concern, does sort of interfere with the case in ways that would be completely and utterly unprecedented.
I want you to crystallize that point, Paul.
So would you like me to go into that? So essentially, if we consider that US federal law doesn't canvass the issues all that well, other than COPA, other than protecting children, addictive behavior, gambling regulation, a whole array of things in the United States lies with the states. And so a company like Facebook, and they take the same attitude in respect of South Africa. Their attitude is, we are bigger than you, we will outgun you, so to heck with exercising your police powers. That is a mentality that Facebook has quite strongly demonstrated. Now, that's not to say that Facebook don't at least attempt to play ball when states be it US states, that are more a province, or states like South Africa, engage with them, they do try to at least avoid an outright regulatory showdown. But they do have the mindset that they will, in court, take on a regulatory showdown, to their benefit. But because this is so many US states, and because the US states have gone with a twofold attack, one is, simple statutory issues in the form of COPA, and two, a far more difficult to prove, honestly, a much more difficult to prove.
But Paul, there seems to be a break in signal in our discussion. But if you can hear me clearly, from a legal perspective, how different is that from simply offering a product that happens to be popular with young people? I guess that's the bigger question being asked this afternoon.
So that's the reason why I think they're going to have a problem with regards to the addictive behavior case in general, and why I think very few jurisdictions would be able to successfully mount that particular basis. The COPA violations is, like I say, the simpler part. But if we move away from whether or not the matter will prevail in court, and rather just sort of look at the question of, and targeting children with a view of making, their conduct a form of addictive behavior, I think there is a very real distinction. I think if South Africa is taking notes from this, we need to look at the question of, how are we as a country looking to address online gambling, or more particularly online sports bet booking, which has taken on a character that is not within what was envisaged, and is something far more akin to gambling type addictive behavior.
Paul, this is all the time we have for this conversation. Unfortunately, the line letting us down there as well. But I think we've got the nub of that discussion, or that analysis being given by Paul Hjul, of course, giving us some insight as a special advisor at Cybersec Clinique. A big thank you for your time and helping us make sense of these issues.